hasn't really started yet. Still spinning. Published, all right. There it is, live now. Click on it, turn off the sound. Ah, very good. Yeah, that is cool. All right, we're good. And the lighting looks pretty good. The yeah, it looks good. Coolness. All right, thanks, man. See you later. Bye. Okay, great. Thanks, buddy. Bye. Oh, hello, everyone. I'm talking on the phone right now, so sorry about that. Um, we're using a whole new set of equipment here. We're using a thing called a Mevo, which is especially for live broadcasting and the like. So it's I I apologize for being clumsy in the beginning. This is the first time I've used it, and my helpful friend Evan, the rat, is not here to help me, and so I'm kind of alone with in my field of electronics here. But here we are, and looks like you can hear me okay. The sound is good. The lights are good. I think we're all set to go. Brian W. Hi, Brian in Virginia. Hey, Brian. Homesticky said, hello, friend. I'm a new subscriber from Los Angeles. Wonderful. Where are you located? I'm in New York, actually, Astoria, Queens, New York, just a little bit outside of Manhattan. Brian is also saying, great setting. Good. Oh, you like the picture? I guess I should move this, let you see the picture a little bit more. My son gave me that for Christmas. Victor, hey, GP, Victor watching from Galway, Ireland. Ah, wonderful. Judy is in Florida. Thanks. Yeah, please. There's a bunch of people watching now. Please just type into the chat where you're from. It's really great to know. So Los Angeles and Virginia and Ireland. Yeah, Ireland and Florida. Those are the only people who have reported in. And let me. Oh. Still had some questions from last week that I wanted to deal with if I got a chance. But I called this week's episode, Can Relationships Be Spiritual? And it's, as a coach, I get a lot of questions about a lot of stuff. And there's a lot of stuff that's very, very important to people. Money, health, and love, and relationships. So I thought I'd take a few minutes to talk about relationships, and can they actually be spiritual? And that's all, folks. Is still in Holland. Hi, this is William from Dallas. Hi. Homesticky saying, I don't know what a satsang is. Okay, we'll start there. A satsang is a spiritual interaction between a spiritual teacher and a student. It is not a teaching kind of thing, like, I've got this knowledge, this this book learning that I'm gonna. This isn't a college class. It's not academic. It's an exploration. It's an invitation to question your deepest assumptions and presumptions, to let yourself actually feel what it's like to feel, to be a human being, your feelings, which gets you in touch with your, childhood traumas and disappointments and all the stuff that blocks us. But it also allows us to get in touch with our natural joy and our natural peace. And so satsang is an inquiry. It's an inquiry into what is the nature of reality. It may seem like rather lofty, but yeah, and yes, it is. But what better way to spend a Sunday afternoon than to examine, or evening, than to examine what's actually the most important to us? And I say it's the most important because, believe me, if you don't know who you are, how can anything else in your life make sense? I mean, everywhere you go, everything you do, you're showing up as you. You're interpreting as you. You have all sorts of thoughts and ideas and stuff about yourself, and patterns of thoughts and patterns of emotion. And that's how you experience the world. But if those aren't really you, if they're artificial, if they're conditioned responses, if they're stuff you've never challenged, quite literally, the eyes through which you see the world won't really be your eyes. There will be a fog over them. Satsang is an opportunity to examine that in the deepest way. Now, as a spiritual teacher, I have to cover the gamut. We'll go for the deepest inquiry, non-dual inquiry, down to the most mundane questions about, making a living and career and stuff like that. And if you want, I will go into I can go into the subject of relationships. If nobody wants it, I won't bother. But let's see, that's all folks still in Holland. Pam in Norfolk, United Kingdom, wonderful. Dagang from California, hope I pronounced that right, Dagang. Klesu says she, not sure which, love the mic. Great, yeah, it's a great mic, isn't it? And Hone, Honest Mickey. Oh, God, I completely missed that. Honest Mickey. Thank you, Gene. Okay, so now you understand what a satsang is. So when I talk about anything, be it health or relationships, in this format, there's other coaching formats and things that I do where I might talk about it differently from the point of view of energy healing or something, or just, how to communicate and the like, or resolving inner conflict. But in this setting of satsang, we look at it from the deepest possible level. And the question really does come up. Can a relationship be spiritual? And I mean a romantic relationship. I mean a physical relationship, a sexual relationship, a relationship with a partner that you're living with or want to. Can those be spiritual? Well, if you know my teaching, spiritual teaching, you know that my answer is going to be yes. The big mistake that has been made in spirituality since time immemorial has been to create a gap between our everyday life and our spiritual aspirations. And it has been perpetuated in a lot of different cultures and a lot of different traditions. Every religious tradition has its monks, which are celibate. They take vows of poverty, vows of celibacy. They, and I think it's the Tibetan monk, the Theravada monks. They can't, the monks, the male monks can't even touch a woman. They can't shake her hand and say hello. It's that much of a taboo. Now, it's not the same kind of moral taboo like it is Western religions. The Buddhist view of it is much different. And the whole idea is that they're attempting to overcome their attachment to sensual pleasure, their attachment to the world. It's a mistake from my point of view. If I'm teaching in general terms, it's a mistake. I never think anybody's spiritual practice is a mistake. Whatever spiritual practice you're drawn to, it's the one you need to go to, even if you will eventually grow out of it. And you will eventually grow out of that, just like everything else. Believe it or not, you'll outgrow all of it. You'll outgrow worship, you'll outgrow bhakti, you'll outgrow surrender, you'll outgrow meditation, you will outgrow every different form of every different kind of religion, because the ultimate freedom has nothing to do with the form. It has everything to do with the inner transformation. If the form helps you get to a point where you are, in fact, able to let go of the very form that took you there, you're well on your way. Home Sticky says that the volume is a little bit low. If that's the case for everybody, please let me know, because sometimes it's your settings, and if I push it up too much, your ears will blast, and it'll distort, so we don't want that. Papinu said, if we talk about my last marriage, this will not be a satsang, but more like a sad song. Yeah, I can go along with that. Yes, it is. Relationships, romantic relationships, carry so much meaning, and we put so much into them. And we expect so much from them that when they go south, as they often do, um, the, uh, the, the results are quite devastating because our expectations are so high. Now, hold on, I'm going to raise the volume here. And hopefully that's better. If it's too loud now or distorting, please tell me. That's all folks said it was fine over there. So I will, for a couple of did. So if you want to have a real relationship, one that lasts for a lifetime, you have got to learn how to manage your expectations. And I don't mean lower your expectations. A lot of people would say that. Yeah, just compromise. It's a matter of convenience, which for many people it ends up being that. But of course, your heart doesn't get nourished, your body doesn't get nourished. All of the things that we're in relationship for don't get nourished, and it becomes very perfunctory. And which is why we have such a high rate of divorce and the like. So how would you have a relationship that actually fed all of you? When I say you look at your expectations, what I mean is that if you're looking to your car for a great place to take a bath, you're gonna get very confused. I mean, you might be able to do it, put a bunch of water in there, take a bath, but it'll be like really weird for the car, and you won't get very clean. Right? A relationship can do certain things for you extremely well, and other things it can't do at all. You can, if you have two very mature, spiritually developed, and spiritually growing individuals, you can create an environment between you that is actually conducive to the healing of old traumas, even past life traumas, and is like, as well as like constantly meeting somebody afresh because you're growing. So it is possible, but the emphasis has to be not on what you can get from somebody, but what you can give and what you can create together. I mean, imagine being in a relationship with somebody that is so open to you, that has made a space so safe for you that anything that comes up within you, any feeling, any emotion, any memory, anything from the past can come up and be welcomed. I mean, that's the kind of healing environment I create as a healer. It's what I teach people how to do when I teach them how to coach others. Creating an environment where your deepest wounds and hurts and fears can actually come to the surface and be seen in the light. And if they come up in an environment which is totally supportive, you're going to have a relationship that will last, and will bring you to a new place spiritually. Because, the spiritual journey isn't just about learning spiritual stuff. It's not about chanting mantras, learning how to meditate, or, sit in funny positions and things like that. It's about deeply inquiring into the nature of your true being and being willing to confront all of the programmed responses that have turned our lives basically into automatons. If you're responding to your environment as somebody who is a robot, really just from the point of view of your conditioned responses, you're not present. You're not experiencing life. You are experiencing life through a filter, through a buffer. You're not you. Now, the genuine spiritual process involves insight into seeing that that's the fact, and then the inner journey to wade through the difficult stuff, sort out what's you and what isn't, and learn how the energy system actually works so that you can liberate it from its position. That's what I teach, and that's what inner reconciliation is a way of reconciling with those energies within us, so that they're no longer so threatened. When you're little, I'm going to get to your question in a second, but better to focus on highest vibration. Because the answer is yes, but there's a caveat to it. When you're little, you are purely yourself, right? Everything's innocent. Everything's beautiful. Everything is just pure, right? There's no such thing as a child that isn't pure and innocent and good. But that innocent, pure child, which we all were, gets confronted by an environment that is more or less open to it being innocent and good. Your natural behavior can be very criticized, completely diminished, demeaned, and really get punished for it because it conflicts with what your particular tribe and their rules and mores say is appropriate or allowed. So all of the natural behavior of children gets restricted into this tribal model. Now, some of them are very brutal and abusive. Some are more affirming, but there's no such thing as one that completely allows you to be who you are. The end result is that energetic patterns get set up within the nervous system because remember, your number one mission in life is to survive. So the nervous system is going to do whatever it has to do in order to harmonize with the environment. And of course, the environment of your tribe and your parents has all the power. There's nothing you can do about it. So your nervous system simply turns itself into whatever it needs to in order to fit the mold as the environment wants it to see it. And it takes all of the natural energy that isn't acceptable and it buries it down in your energy system and physically in your body. This is the origin of all suppression. It's the origin of all emotional difficulties. It is the origin of the programmed response. It becomes automatic. It automatically responds in a certain way and will not let another response get out. And that sense of this is the environment in which you are born, the sense to the nervous system, it believes that this environment is permanent, that it's never ever going to be any different. Now this makes perfect sense. A little kid, it is the only environment they know. You don't know a big world. This is all there is. And we're well into our teenage years before we're really beginning to, well, younger now because of the internet and the like, but the level of exposure, the reality of what you experience with your first your parents, then your family, a little bit larger, is regarded as being the ultimate and only reality. That's the basic assumption your nervous system is under. So fast forward 20 years, and you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, or more, that energy, unless it's been liberated, still thinks it's living in the same environment. It's still acting as if it did. The spiritual journey is when we begin to realize that these are not who we actually are. They are programmed responses, and you now turn towards that energy instead of away from it. You also stop trying to fix it. Spirituality is not about fixing these things. Self-help is, personal development, and that stuff, it is. Reprogramming the system and all, which is okay, but it doesn't really get to the heart of the matter. The heart and soul of spirituality is to dismantle all of these assumptions and the energetic patterns by the discovery of who you are and letting the truth of your being sink into the nervous system and create a completely different environment in which it reacts. This is what it means when it said heaven comes down to earth. It means the truth of your being that you perceive gets so integrated into the energy system, into the body, into your relationships, into your finances, that it literally expresses the reality of your being. Tom Stone said, in any situation, to read the energy and wait to know what role pure awareness gives you, situation, to complete it. Yes, that is correct, but don't turn that into an intellectual thing, because remember, in every situation, your nervous system is already there with an agenda, trying to bend it to what it wants it to be in order to feel safe. So to just say, wait to know what role pure awareness gives for that situation isn't going to help very much when your energy system is already 2 miles down the road, right? First, you have to discover what that pure awareness is. Then you have to discover that pure awareness is nothing but your true self. And that pure awareness isn't just this passive thing sitting back and watching stuff happen. It is a powerful presence when the sense of identification is no longer in the conditioned responses, but it's in pure awareness. Jesus said it, that the works that he do, we would do also, because I go unto my Father. That's what he was referring to. The sense of identity wasn't identified with the human body, the human form, the human conditions, the human past, the human associations and memories. It was identified with that pure being. This is the essential road that the spiritual inquirer needs to walk. Yes, you are that pure awareness, but that needs to be seen as such an immanent and ever-present truth that it literally begins to undo the conditioned responses, and it does that by creating a completely different environment of safety. So the energy system itself sees that the environment that all of those patterns of behavior were created for doesn't exist anymore, and it can drop them. That's the essence of inner reconciliation, which is the essence of the what I teach, both as a personal development tool and as a spiritual path. But that's the heart and soul of it. The nervous system, you can't force it to abandon its position as long as it believes that the world it is walking in is not benevolent, that it's dangerous. As long as it believes that, it's never going to change. You literally have to show it a different world. And when it sees a different world, it goes, oh, wow, great, cool. And boom, it's amazing how fast those behaviors will just fall away. The transformation I've seen in people is just astounding and fast. And there's several people here watching right now that can verify it. So let's see. So yes, absolutely. Ultimately, you are that pure awareness. But the mission is to let that move south from the vision, which is always first. There's always a vision of it there, and then it begins through practice. It begins to sink in, and eventually, it sinks in so much that even the practice by which it sinks in gets abandoned. Even inner reconciliation, my pride and joy, my baby, it too is just will be left by the side. You won't need it anymore. Ramana Maharshi uses the beautiful example of taking a stick. You've got a fire going, and the fire needs to be stirred if you're cooking something or doing something with it. So you're taking a stick and you stir it in the fire and you put it in the dirt, right? And when it finally gets down to the bottom and there's just a few embers left, you throw that stick into and you let it burn up. You don't need anything anymore. You're free. That's what this is all about. And so allowing, just to try to keep with the subject for tonight, allowing that energy of pure awareness and pure presence to sink into your relationships liberates those relationships from the old conditioned patterns. Because if you still think you're living in this world, right, this energetic assumption, this world that doesn't really exist anymore, but is a memory within the energy system, if you still think you're living there, all of your decisions are going to be coming there. Believe your vision is going to be coming from there. Right? All the things you want are going to be a reflection of that. Your relationships are going to be a reflection of that. Everything will be a reflection of that, because as far as the energy is concerned, that's the universe you live in. That universe has got to change, because it isn't really the universe you live in. The universe you really live in is pure awareness. It's infinite. It has no boundaries. It has no limits. It is the pure potential for everything. It has no self in it. It has no person. It has no... It is just pure being that manifests itself constantly. Creation not as a moment in time, but as a constantly unfolding moment right now. That creation is... The creation you're experiencing right now around you wasn't created before. It's being created now. It's more like a movie playing on a screen than it is some kind of event in space-time that started 3.8 billion years ago with the Big Bang and now has got us here. All of it is instantaneously right now, right in this moment. So that you're not stuck anywhere. That's the reality. Pure awareness is not stuck. That's what Buddha meant by emptiness. Your nature has no fixed definition, which means you're free. If you were fixed, if you were something, if you discovered, oh, this is who I am, that would be it. You'd be done. But what we discover is that you're not anything in particular, which means you can be anything. Anything can happen in any moment, and you can just flow with it. Somebody made the Christopher Espinal flow state. Yes, that's the flow state. The flow state is pure awareness. It's not a personal thing that you own and you attain the flow state. The flow state is the nature of the universe, which is flowing through you right this second. And it's only our minds that don't think, because it can't see it like that. So our minds use things like time and space and all these ideas to try to measure stuff, and it's all nonsense. You don't need to. It is the flow of life, and you are that flow of life. It's all just one beautiful whole. Ooh, I don't know. Anyway, this is an excellent topic from Honest Mickey. Thank you, Honest Mickey. You want to be known as, should I call you Honest or Mickey? Flow state. Would you say the mind-body construct equals ignorance? The mind. Oh, I love this one. Now this is how you get into real spirituality, folks. Real non-duality. Because real non-duality is not one or the other. It is neither this nor that nor both nor neither. So here's the deal. The mind-body construct is pure awareness, pure consciousness, manifesting itself as form. If we believe the mind-body is an object existing independently of us in the universe somewhere with a beginning and an end, then you have ignorance. Ignorance isn't the mind-body construct. Ignorance is believing that that mind-body construct is anything other than a projection of the mind, that it's something other than yourself. Thinking that the world and the universe exists independently of your perception of it is ignorance. That's the ignorance Buddha was speaking of. And he was always accused of nihilism. Well, there's nothing here, then the world doesn't exist. And that's not at all what he says. It doesn't exist as a thing. It exists simply as a construct of the mind, or a projection of the mind, is the way the Buddha actually puts it. Now, can you see, this is so important. You get this, you got non-duality. You got it in a nutshell. It is neither or both. It is something, it is how we perceive what is. What is the truth, it's reality. It is what is. But our perceptions of it can mistake it for something other than what it is. Therefore, we think it exists independently of our own perception, and now we have literally created a world in which I'm this object and there's all these other objects and I'm defining myself, when all of it is a projection of the mind. None of it exists as a reality. But when you lose the ignorance of it, it doesn't mean this changes. It doesn't mean all of a sudden I'm going to, get young and handsome. I keep hoping, but it's not going to happen. Everything remains the same. You're just simply seeing it the way it is. Nothing disappears. It's not nihilism. There's a beautiful line from Shankara, who kind of revived the whole non-dual inquiry, of which, you know Ramana Maharshi and Nisargadatta Muji, people like that. But the non-dual thread in Hinduism was kind of lost for a while, and Shankar's the guy who brought it back. And he made the statement to a bunch of pundits, speaking to a bunch of Brahmin priests. He said that the world is an illusion. And of course they all agreed, yes, this is a basic Hindu tenet. He said, only Brahma, the creator, is real. And to which they, again, yes, nodded, absolutely true. And then he added this kicker. He said, Brahma is the world. Huh? It completely baffled the religious leaders of the day. But do you see what he's saying? The world, separate from the creator of the world, which is consciousness, is an illusion. Only Brahma, only consciousness, only that pure being is real. And then he says, that pure being is the world. It is simply the expression of it. You can't separate the source and the expression. You can't separate music and the song. And music is not limited to any single song. There's an infinite number of ways you can do it. There's an infinite number of variations on the same song. Music is infinite, but you can't imagine, you can't think of music without a song. If I ask you what's music, you're going to hum me a tune, right? This is the unity of it. They are not two, they are one. You can't separate them. So Advaita simply means not two. And so what you are looking at, and you, the one looking at it, are not two. You are literally looking at consciousness. Everything appears to consciousness, it appears in consciousness, and it is made of consciousness. Honest Mickey says, I'm new to non-duality, where should I start? Good question. Let's see, I don't think I have the Thought of I course available. If you send me an email, send a support at MasterHEARTInstitute.com. I can get you. I have several non-duality courses that I can get you to. It's just I had so many courses I had to pull everything back and be a little bit. So I am less to manage, but I'd be happy to get. I have one called Infinite Sky Freedom, the Thought of I. I think I've got another one that is the path called From Delusion to Awakening. So if you send me an email, support at MasterHEARTInstitute.com, I'll hook you up, Mickey. Yeah, thank you. You're welcome. You're very welcome. Papino said, Papinu, I think it's the right way. She said, shouldn't we just focus, I have to back up here a little bit, because, let's see, wouldn't it be better to focus on your highest vibration? And whoever walks in might be a potential relationship, but what comes first is the highest vibration, not the person. That's true. How do you get to the highest vibration now? You see, if you're stuck in your conditioned patterns, you're not in your highest vibration. Your highest vibration is you. It's you without anything extra added. It's just the pure you, no aftermarket options, right? All original equipment. As long as you're identified with a sense of identity that is limited and finite and confined to this to the body-mind, the associations and programmed responses, and this assumption about the nature of the world, as long as you're confined there, your vibration is never going to get high. Now, in the law of attraction circles and the like, they don't know about that. So they're trying to raise the vibration, standing on a platform that simply will only let it get so high. It simply won't allow it to get high because your highest vibration is outside of that whole construct that you're living under. The highest vibration is simply being yourself. Now, from that point of view, everything makes sense, and you do vibrate at a different level. I mean, you vibrate love, you vibrate honesty, you vibrate gratitude, you vibrate power, authority. All of these things just naturally appear. You can speak with authority, and your words will carry power because they're coming from the truth. So you said later, seek ye first the kingdom, highest vibration, and all else will be added. The kingdom is not the highest vibration. The kingdom is the pure, true knowledge of who you are. That creates the vibration and everything that gets added afterwards. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and its righteousness. That is, you are seeking the truth of your being. Heaven is reality of your being. Heaven is another word for the I am. It's not a place where some super being is living and you're going to get to go to. It's not even an altered state of consciousness. It is the discovery of who you actually are. And the only way you can fully discover who you actually are, that is, fully realize who you really are, is to be able to integrate the knowledge I am pure awareness into the whole nervous system, so that becomes a lived and felt truth and not just an idea, not just a non-dual idea. And knowing that honest Mickey here has not had a lot of experience with non-duality, you will hear a lot of different versions of it, but there's only a handful of teachers that will tell you what I'm telling you. Because it isn't about just having these great non-dual concepts. It is about living the truth. It is about liberating the sense of self that allows you the freedom to love, to experience, to know joy, to know fun, to know pleasure. You're liberating all of the things that are inhibiting you from having the full experience of life. So the non-dual or spiritual approach is not otherworldly. It's not stepping out of this world. It's stepping fully into this world. But it's no longer this world. It's no longer a world out there that I'm stepping into and trying to get pleasure or fun or safety from it. You find that the world is nothing but your perception. The world's an illusion. Only Brahma is real. Brahma is the world. Now the world becomes your playground because it's within. It's not without. It's not something you have to conspire to get to. It's nothing you have to raise your vibration so you get what you need. It just flows. Honest Mickey says, "Thank you. You're more than welcome." Let's see, Carla. Hi, everybody from Mexico. Hi, Carla. It's so good to have you here. Plant W, can your awareness expand beyond your body and mind? Well, this is an interesting one. Well, notice that when you say, and I'm going to be very precise and non-dual here. Notice that you say, can your awareness expand beyond your body and mind? Now, you've just made awareness into an attribute of you. So I would ask you then, okay, who are you? Who are you that wants to expand that awareness beyond your body and mind? So I want you to know who you are. So you're talking about awareness as if it's an object of some sort. Your awareness, right? So it's something you possess. So I ask you, who are you? Who is it that possesses awareness? And that which possesses awareness, is that not aware? Is that not aware of the awareness? Because if it isn't, though, then you can't call it your awareness because there'd be nothing to be aware of. So it's like there's this awareness aware of another awareness. Are there two awarenesses? Awareness isn't your awareness. You are awareness. Now, if you are awareness, you're already expanded beyond body and mind. Body and mind are simply experiences being had by awareness. A big mistake people make is that when they talk about awareness, what they mistake it for is our focus of attention, that which I am aware of. Now, in this particular moment, I'm aware of this room, the computer I'm looking at the questions on, the little iPad that I'm controlling the camera with, the lights, the things behind me, right? I'm aware of all of that. So I think that somehow my awareness is limited to what's in this room because that's all the content that I'm experiencing in that moment. Awareness has no boundaries. It is not limited to the body and mind. It is not limited to what it happens to be aware of in that moment. Because this whole place could fall apart and the view would entirely change. Would I need to get into a different awareness for that, or would it be the same awareness? Awareness has no limits. But because it has no limits, you can't look at it and say, oh, there it is. Oh, it's there. Because it's absolutely everywhere simultaneously. It has no It has no shape or form. It isn't in space or time. It is just space and time appear to it. So it is beyond the body and the mind. And the problem we all suffer from is that we have identified ourselves, pure awareness, consciousness, has identified itself with a finite body. And from that finite body, a world in which the finite body exists. There is no such thing. The body and mind are simply a perception of existence, a perception in awareness. Does that help? Plant W? Awareness. Yeah, let me know if that helps. It's very, very subtle. Very, very subtle. But you'll notice how we are constantly referring to I have awareness, I have this, I have that, and not ever questioning what that I refers to. We just kind of assume it. You know, my awareness. Who is it that has the awareness then? Who's that I or my referring to? What do you mean when you say that? We don't ask that question. It is so assumed, and it's basically so assumed to be the body and mind, that we don't ever bother to stop for a second and recognize, wait a minute, my mind and my body are both things that I perceive, and they're constantly changing. They're never fixed. So who am I that is noticing these things that are constantly changing and constantly fixed? Or, excuse me, constantly changing. What is the place that's not changing from which they're being perceived? It's you, obviously. I mean, that's where you are, right? That's the position you're actually in. You are right now looking from that place. You're only believing the thoughts that say you're finite or contained. You're looking from the point of view of pure awareness. Consciousness is hearing my words. Point out this mic isn't hearing my words. You know, the cable isn't hearing my words. The computer that's broadcasting this, the Wi-Fi, the whole internet infrastructure, your computer, your headphones, they're not hearing me. Even your body, your ear, the vibrating in the eardrum, it's not hearing me. All of the neurons and everything firing in the brain and all the associations and everything that goes with it, none of those are hearing me. What's hearing this voice? Consciousness. That's you. That's what you are. And it is not limited to the body. It just thinks it is. And Plant W says, yes, good. Excellent. And then you say, follow up, would it be accurate to say I am awareness? It's not, yes, it's totally accurate. It's the truth. That's what you are. You are awareness. That's all there is to us. And if you look really closely, and you find, you see that there's no boundary to awareness, that it's all space, it's beyond all space and all time, which means there's only one of them. You can't have two awarenesses. You'd have to find a boundary and go, oh, there's another awareness over there. It means that you and I are the same awareness. That it is awareness aware as you, awareness aware as me, awareness aware as everybody here, and everybody who's not here. It's the same awareness. Much like, the space, the space wherever you are, somebody in Mexico or in the Netherlands, in the UK, is the space there different than the space here? Take all the stuff out of it, right? The cities, the planets, and all of that sort of stuff. Is it a difference? Fine, where's the boundary to space? There's only one space. There's only one consciousness. So when you are saying, I am consciousness, you are also saying, I'm everything. Exercise you did on YouTube, Law of Attraction, the highest vibration you can have, sealed the deal for me. Helped me understand how to get the highest vibration after 40 years. Very good, very good. After 40 years of searching, I found my purpose. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Maybe if you feel like it, you could share what that purpose is with us. You don't have to. I mean, sometimes it's a very private thing, but if you'd like to, that would be good. So, there are no more questions in the queue here. Any questions running around in people's minds? Do a quick scroll back to see if I missed anything. Doesn't look that way. Yes. Yes. Yeah, got them all. And especially about relationships. I wanted to talk about relationships because relationships matter to me. I don't see them as being an interference with spirituality. And I see them as being an incredible opportunity to actually become honest. I missed your question, Dagang. Can you ask it again? I'm sorry. It's scrolled way up there. I'm sorry if I missed it. Thank you for pointing that out. But you know, when you're a kid, everything you know about relationships is determined by the relationships with your parents. And so if there's certain parts of you that can't be expressed with your parents, they're just going to go underground. And what's going to happen is, even as you get into adulthood, you're still not going to feel as though that part of you can come out. It's ugly, it's bad, it's stupid, it's not allowed. And so you're going to be hiding somewhat from your partner, and of course your partner's going to be hiding from you. And what gets created then is a relationship that is really quite what's the word? It's inauthentic. It's based on not being who you really are. So if you can create an environment that is totally safe, a beautiful relationship. Oops, I'm sorry about that. A beautiful relationship can emerge where there's total honesty. And not only does it have a healing effect, because there's a place now where it's safe for you to actually express yourself as you are, it also opens up the possibility for intimacy, because now you're really being yourself. Now, it's risky, because when you're really being yourself, yes, you could get rejected, but it's not going to kill you. I mean, when you're little and you're rejected, yeah, it's fatal. That's the way we feel, because primitively, if I was rejected by my tribe, I quite literally would die. And that energy is still very much alive within us. So there is the risk of displaying who you are, and you might not be loved, but it's certainly better than being in a relationship where it's unsatisfied because you're not really there and you're not really being loved. That's the risk we have to take. But if you take that risk, and you're fortunate to find somebody who continues to love you, maybe even loves you more, it deepens. The more genuine it gets, the more healing that takes place. You've had what everybody actually really wants. That is the depth to which a romantic relationship can actually go. And that one you can sustain for a lifetime. The other you can't, because you can't maintain that. You can't maintain a facade that long. Nobody can. Dagang says, since my mind can manifest as the reality in my dream, I'm wondering, is my reality at this moment manifestation of the mind in another dream? Yes. That is a way you can put it. Right? But again, I keep wanting to draw people back, because we could discuss it at that level of just projections of the mind. It would be law of attraction. We could use NLP and hypnotherapy and a bunch of different techniques to kind of change that sense of reality. But you still wouldn't know who you are. Everything you are experiencing is a projection of the mind. A projection of the mind appearing as your perceptions. Nothing exists outside of your perceptions of things, including you. And this is the big one. There's still this assumption of my mind, and I'm creating this reality. Like in a dream, I create it in the waking state. The answer is absolutely yes. The mind is doing that. Who are you? Who is it that's actually looking at the mind doing that? It's something other than the mind. It is the consciousness. The mind isn't conscious. It's not sentient. It's not self-aware. It's just a collection of thoughts. The body is not sentient. It is not self-aware. It is just a collection of sensations. There's only one thing that's actually having the experience, and that's the consciousness that is you. I urge everyone to go for that. That's the goal. Don't get distracted by, well, I can change my thought and manifest stuff. You can. And it might even work for a minute. It won't work forever, because that is not your destiny. Knowing who you are is your destiny, not just making a nicer dream. We just don't want nicer furniture in our prison cell. We want out of the cell. Klesu asks, so who am I relating to? Okay, let's hop down a level, because ultimately we can't step outside of our own perceptions. Right? So what we are going to experience in another is the truth of ourselves. The more you know yourself, the more you're going to see them as they are and love them as they are. But when people hear about that, well, you know, it's all me and it's all my perception, it's as if nobody else exists. It's not true. That isn't the way it works. There is another. The one expresses itself as many, which means the deeper you go, the more intimate the relationship gets, the more tender it gets, the more genuine it gets, and the more you literally see God in that person that you're with. The separation between them and divinity just vanishes, and your experience of the other is your experience of the one. You don't separate them. Like the experience of a great piece of music or a song is the experience of music. You can't separate it. The one expresses itself as the many. So who are you relating to? The one. You're relating to the ultimate oneself. Purpose, Puppy News says her purpose is rediscovering the highest vibration at all levels of life where nothing matters and nothing is lacking. Beautiful. Yes. Yes, that's a very noble thing to do. I love the fact that your purpose was rediscovering, was discovering, not making something happen. Big difference. Discovering is an infinite path. It never runs out, because that infinite one is inexhaustible. Trying to make something happen, that's finite. It's limited, it's constricted. And our desire to try to make something happen is always coming from the false sense of self. It is always a constricted view. The true self God doesn't need to try to make something happen. God said, let there be light, and there's light. It's very simple. Hi, Leanne. Leanne Kidd said, highest vibration is commonly thought as operating from exalted feelings of love, peace, forgiveness, etc. How do we be authentic with the other feelings of anger, fear, shame, etc. within awareness? See, because awareness is beyond what we would call exalted feelings. It's not attached to exalted feelings. If you're attached to having exalted feeling, when you have a feeling that isn't exalting, you suffer. And we somehow think, well, we shouldn't be having these. And that's one of the problems of trying to raise the vibration. The moment you feel some normal human stuff, you're going to go, and you think, oh, my vibration's sag, and you flop back down. Awareness is pure. It's the ultimate of vibration. It's not even, vibrations are secondary to it. So it's not the least bit concerned about whether a feeling is comfortable or uncomfortable, whether it's a disappointment or a great celebration. Both of them take place from the same place, don't they? The same I, the same consciousness that's aware of pain is also aware of pleasure. It's aware of disappointment, is also aware of joy, right? Is that which is aware of it any different? Now, if your sense of I sinks there, then you'll just experience pain, grief, all the stuff of life but without suffering. It'll have its sweetness because this is life. You can't have life without the opposites. Trying to have life without the opposites is what causes all our suffering. You can't do it. You can't get the cat to bark. Don't bother. Don't try to make the shark into a vegetarian, let alone a vegan. It's not going to happen. So you lose the need to favor this vibration over that vibration. The whole law of attraction thing has done such a huge disservice by trying to force people into maintaining high vibration. Is that a high vibration? Hardly. And very few people can get there. Very few. And nobody can sustain it. So you can just drop that. It's not what's important. Awareness is beyond even all the vibrations. And from this place of awareness, everything is okay. Everything is okay. Nothing's wrong. Nothing's out of it. Oh boy, all of a sudden a bunch of new questions came up. Here, I thought I was going to get out of work early. Hopefully that answers your question there, Leanne, who is a student of inner reconciliation, by the way. Plant W. If we are the same awareness, why do I only perceive from this body and mind as if I'm constricted to this body only? Because it's a hard one to explain. Yes, it seems that way. Our perceptions, the content that we are experiencing, sees the universe from a particular point of view. So because of this particular form, body-mind, when I look at the universe, I see certain things. This is a human form, so I perceive cats in a certain way. This is a male form, so I perceive the female form in a certain way from that perspective. Right? In order for me to have an experience of being at all, there has to be myself and other. But the me that is perceiving and the one that's being perceived are both being perceived by something more subtle. You're aware of the perceiving, the perceived, and the perceiving. The perceiver, the perceived, and the perceiving. You're aware of all three. Are you not? Something is aware even at that subtlest level. And that subtlest level is the same for everybody. That's the best I can do is just point you there. Notice that there, it's beyond the perceived, the perceiving, and the perceiver. It is beyond the three of those. And you'll see, Buddha said it, that the three of those arise together. He called it dependent origination. They all arise together, and they arise to that which is purely empty. It is beyond all perceiving, perceived, and perceivers. Go to that place, and you will find it's just intuitively, my God. Everybody who follows this follows beyond their own the trio of the perceived, the perceiving, and the perceiver gets to this space. Everybody gets to the same place. Everybody finds they're in exactly the same place. And then you just intuitively know, my God, it's all there is. It's the one I am. I hope that points you there as best I can, Plant. It's a great question. Thank you. GP, can you put a higher volume because I can't hear and I don't have earphones? I already pushed it before, and anybody else is having trouble hearing at this point, yeah, sorry, you may just have to push it your own speakers a bit, because if I push it much higher, it's going to be distorted. Let's see, Victor. Hi, Victor. How can we tell the difference between the ego and our true self? Wow, that's the practice, man. That's the practice. It takes experience, it takes patience, it takes a willingness to be with your own feelings. I can't just tell you, oh, this is the ego. A lot of religions will do that. A lot of spiritual practices will do that. They'll say, well, that's the ego, that's true self. That you're going to find, as you dive more deeply into this, that even the ego is the true self. It too is a reflection of the one self. It's not a mistake. When we see the world as existing independently from us, and that somehow we're this being in the world, in that moment the ego is created. There's a sense of self that is separate from other selves. When that dissolves and we fall back into that one awareness, the awareness is still there. The forms are still there. The perceiving, perceived, and perceiver are all still there. But the ego doesn't exist anymore as a thing. You see it simply as a bunch of thoughts, as a collection of thoughts going on. From there, it's easy to discern what is simply... So a better way to look at it is not to discern between my ego and the true self, because the ego is vastly misunderstood. What the ego is simply a projection of the mind, the creation of an object in the mind that just kind of sums up the sum total of your conditioned patterns. That's what the ego is. It is the mind perceiving the conditioned patterns as if it was a person. Now, go beyond that and just look at the conditioned patterns themselves. Am I simply reacting to this moment? Or am I really present in this moment? Am I allowing myself to feel what I'm feeling, or am I resisting my own feelings? That's the question. When you're resisting your feelings, when you are reacting to a circumstance, that is the egoic mind. When you become more present, when you're willing to just allow your feelings to be there without judgment, not assuming a position, not taking sides, this feeling's bad, this feeling's good, but just being present with it, now you're the true self. And that creates the environment in which the conditioning can begin to dissolve and a whole new way of functioning in the world will emerge. And it'll seem like you became better, you became less egotistical, but in fact, all it means is more of you is appearing. Because you are hidden by the conditioned responses. So you can use the word ego and conditioning are synonymous. Conditioning is a very complex set of patterns, right? I mean, your nervous system mapped everything. It knew how to automatically respond to absolutely everything that happened in your environment. Right? I mean, it's pretty remarkable. Right? But it's so complex that the mind creates what's called an abstraction. I mean, the body is an abstraction, right? The word body is an abstraction. I say, what did it? I say body, and you know what I'm talking about. But it's an abstraction because what the body is 100 trillion cells. Tens of thousands of processes, hundreds of organs. I mean, it's so complex, we just sum it up in a single word. Well, the entirety of your conditioning, you sum up in a single word, ego, or false self, or conditioned self, or conditioned mind. Right? When we create an abstraction, we begin to think of it as like it's an entity of itself, and now it starts inheriting all sorts of characteristics. It has no characteristics. It is a word to describe the characteristics of your conditioned patterns. So, it's not, is this my ego doing it or the true self? It's, am I reacting from my conditioning, or am I really present and feeling? That's the real question. That will get you to the heart of it. I hope that answers you, Victor. Thank you. Let's see. Before the satsang starts, I have questions to ask, but when the satsang starts, it seems that the questions are made up by the mind and they just dissolve. Good. Very good. Yeah, because when you get into the atmosphere of satsang is really quite holy. It's really quite sacred. It's not being created by me like I'm a holy guy, right? It's being created by a group of us who have come together to know the truth. Now, that is a prayer that God is a sucker for. He can't help but she can't help but answer it, right? We come together to celebrate truth. To be satsang means in the presence, in the community of truth. Sang is community like sangha, and sat is Sanskrit for truth. So that's what we are, is in this presence of truth. And in the presence of truth, there's a silent transmission that takes place. So yes, your questions could go away. And if they come back, you simply step into the satsang. You don't need me for that, because the satsang is actually happening inside you. It's a very personal thing between you and the truth of your being. So you just step into this place and you go, well, what is this question really asking? What is it that I really want to know? And just take that same position, and you could get a question that does come up during satsang. But it's okay if the questions dissolve, because ultimately all questions will dissolve, and there's just pure knowing. You just know. The only questions that come up are practical ones. How do I get to 34th Street? And things like that. Where's the nearest bathroom? Useful questions. Those aren't going to dissolve the questions of everyday life, but the existential question of who am I? You'll just know. You won't need to ask. In the meantime, we just keep clarifying. We keep pointing back. So. Papinu says, basically you're saying the same thing over and over again 1,000 different ways, which is probably why you had too many products. Thank you, Papinu. Yes, sometimes I do feel, like it's repetitive, but it's beautiful the way truth works. You always say exactly the same thing, but it's always different and fresh. Buddha said the same. Buddha even said more so. He says, Buddha, I think it's like 45,000 sutras. Some of them, hundreds of thousands of lines long. I mean, just constantly, several times a day for 50 years. And he made the comment, he said, I've never said a thing. That's what he means. Of course, he opened his mouth and talked, but it's like he always said the same. Somebody else even asked him once, why do you always say the same thing over and over again? He says, sometimes somebody's in a dream, all you can do is shake them and shake them and shake them. So, thank you, Papinu. Dagang, in the dream, I feel I'm doing this, other people are doing that, but after I wake up, I realize it's not really doing. It's just happening like a movie. Yes. Should I just let it happen without control? It is happening without control. You think you have control. That's the difference. In our waking dreams, well, even in our sleeping dream, we try to interact as if we have control, but all of it's just happening, right? You're recognizing a very fundamental illusion that human beings have, and that is that they have control. Now, we like thinking we have control because it makes us feel safe. If I control my body, my environment, then I can get what I need. Right? It's very fundamental to the human nervous system. But you don't actually have any control. Nobody does. Everything is happening. Life is simply happening. Now, don't try to take that in with your mind. Just try to take that in with your heart. And also, when you take something like that in, that I really don't have control, pay very close attention and be very gentle with your nervous system, because your nervous system is going to react to that like it's a threat. It's not going to want to accept that, and you will feel an inner conflict. Don't worry about it. Just be really gentle. Go, yeah, you're absolutely right. It does feel like I'm in control, and it is scary that losing control could mean I'm going to die, because that's what your nervous system thinks. And so you just be very, very gentle with it. Don't try to force it. Don't try to turn it into some spiritual philosophy, because it ain't one. Let it sink into the energy system, and what happens is the nervous system begins to move from the fear of losing control and the fear of dying into becoming the expression of the immortal. And so it doesn't fear dying. Because in fact, the body doesn't fear dying. It's only the false sense of self that fears dying, because it thinks it's attached to the body. The body's going to just dissolve. Of course it's going to dissolve. But the body has no fear of that. I mean, it's got reactions. It wants to last as long as it can. But the fear we feel about that of losing control is the ego. It's the false sense of self. It is not the body. The body's not really worried about it. Let's see what else we got. We are, I am, Clausius says. Yes, we are, I am. I like it. Isn't that great? I sometimes say, I am many, we are one. Yeah, it's so beautiful when the line between many and one just falls away. And what you have instead is the oneness that is allness. It's a oneness that is beyond words. It cannot be described. Helen, hello Helen. What to do when you can't handle your feelings without using a distraction? Well, use the distraction and continue to go back to your feelings. I mean, eventually we have to. I mean, the whole fact, what do you do when I can't handle my feelings, is a thought that comes when you're trying to be with your feelings, right? It's not true. Of course you can handle your feelings. There's a lot of associations with the feelings. They can get very intense, and we think they're going to hurt us. They're your feelings. They're not going to hurt you. You might be uncomfortable, but they're not going to hurt you. And the thought, I can't handle it, or I'm overwhelmed, is just a thought. The feeling itself didn't come and tell you, I am overwhelming you, you can't handle me. The feeling came up, and the conditioned response of the mind, which has learned over time to avoid and distract itself from feeling, says, we can't handle this, we got to be distracted. It's not true. That's the conditioned response. The feeling isn't conditioned response, it's just the energy reacting to the moment. The thought, I can't handle this, which creates suffering and creates a drive to get away from it, is just a thought. It's a conditioned response, and it's not true. So just let yourself go back to the feeling. Say to the mind, thank you, I don't need you right now. And just keep going back into the feeling and watch. See if the feeling actually is, if you aren't able to handle it. You'll find you are. Of course you are. They're your feelings. They've just been associated, you know. If you had a feeling when you were a little kid and it got expressed and you got punished or something bad happened to you, yeah, there's going to be something inside that says, we can't handle this. It's assuming that there's a punishment for the feeling. But there's not any punishment anymore. Your mind's expecting something that's never going to happen. Right? So you can just, it's not real, and turn your attention back and really start to embrace those feelings, letting them come. And the more you embrace them, the more they'll come. The more they come, the less difficult it'll be. The more open you are, the more spacious, the easier it will be, which means there's even more room for them to come, and little by little, all of the traumas, all of the conditioning vaporizes, and you stand in perfect freedom as the true self. That's all, folks. Oh, Victor Adams says, wow, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Victor. Yes, it is a wow, isn't it? I'm wowed every day. And it gets better. It just keeps getting better. That's all, folks. Your mind needs repetition. Yeah, it does. Repetition created it. Yeah, it is nothing but repetition. All the mind is a pattern. Remember, there's no such thing as a mind. There's not a thing, a mind thinking. The mind is a word that is an abstraction of patterns of thought. There's no mind thinking them. There's only patterns of thought. And the mind is just a thought about the patterns. It's a nice abstraction. So we say mind, we think we know what we're talking about. But what happens is, when we use the word like mind, suddenly the abstraction is a world of its own. People are talking about the mind and the unconscious mind and the super mind and all these kinds of things, and it doesn't exist. There's nothing there. It's just a thought. It's like we talk about Mickey Mouse. I mean, everybody knows who Mickey Mouse is. We can describe it. It's describing him in detail. And adventures, all the stuff when it happened, everything about him. Mickey Mouse doesn't exist. We can talk about the mind. We can do all sorts of things with it. It doesn't exist. What exists are patterns of thought. When you see that, you are now seeing everything as they really are. And now there's nothing holding them in place except the belief in them. It becomes very easy to shift those beliefs. And believe me, once the belief shifts, the thoughts that are being held together in a particular form just go scatter. Like all of a sudden the sun disappeared from the solar system, all the planets would just fly off, gone. That's all, folks. Just sits with all the BS in your mind. I would put a caveat on that. Just let it be there, but let your attention be on your feelings. The doorway to spiritual awakening is through the feelings, is through the body. It's not the ultimate destination. But the body, the mind is never in the present. It is always in the past, and it is always in the future. That's all it is. Remember, the mind isn't a thing. It is nothing but thoughts of the past and thoughts of the future. It is never in the present. When you put your attention on your body and how it feels, you find that your body is never in the past or in the future. It's always in the present. And that has an enormously quieting effect, because in the present, the mind doesn't exist. It only exists as the thought of the past or the thought of the future. In the present, there's no such thing. And so the body now becomes a vehicle by which we can begin to feel our life. And that's where the juice starts flowing, my friends. Itra? Itra, did I say that correctly? I'm sorry, I love these names. You are very insightful, very helpful, thank you. He says, or your patterns of thought. What happens is as the sense of self dissolves, the false sense of self dissolves, even thought gets taken over by the true self. And so the words now begin to express the true self. They're no longer expressing the false self. So the words being spoken are actually coming from the true self. It's the language of the soul. And this is what happens. Language doesn't stop. The sage doesn't suddenly become mute. Language now becomes a tool. Everything becomes a tool. All teachings become a tool. All processes become a tool. We've been liberated from all tools, which means all tools they're expert at using. So I got a million tools in the toolbox that I will pull out as need be. I love doing satsang because I don't use the tools. I go right to the tool, to the artist using the tools. Keith says, I really like your satsang. They really, really help me to grasp the point. Yay, good, Keith. Good. Sounds like you had some experience with satsangs and non-dual teachings before. But because there's a lot of non-dual teachers out there that, how shall I put this? Are missing some key points. Let me put it nicely like that. Yeah, I can probably count on maybe one hand the ones that I would recommend, including my own teacher, which is Muji. So, 5:20, just about 5:20. Well, thank you all for being here. This was wonderful. Thank you for the new. Thank you for enduring my new technology. I think we're going to get the settings correct here. I hope you like the scene, the way I've got it set up here. Maybe I'll get some stuff. I hope it was nice and in focus. It should be. It's like zooming in on my face. Pam asked, can you really study non-duality? Isn't it that you can only experience it? Yes and no. Thank you, Pam. It's a great question. You cannot study it academically now. But wherever our attention is, where our interests are, where things that were really significant to us, our attention's going to go there, and we're going to want to know about it. I did, and little by little, I got good teachers and good teaching that drew me closer and closer so that I could go beyond my intellectual knowledge and into the genuine experience of it. But that took time, it took patience. Very rarely does it happen spontaneously. And so when somebody asks a question, I can't really study it, sometimes you'll hear people say, well, study it so I'm not going to do anything. And you'll even hear some spiritual teachers say that. And it's nonsense. Right? You're interested in it, and whatever you're interested in, you're going to give your attention to, and you're going to give your attention to it. And as you're giving your attention to it, you're going to be gleaning stuff from different places. Some of it's going to stay with you and be really valuable. Others, it's just going to fade away because it's either it's temporary, or it's not valid. But little by little, if your search is sincere, truth itself will bring you out of mere intellectual learning and into the language of the heart. It will happen. It will come from the inside. So don't be afraid of trying to learn. And you've got access to me. I'm more than happy to tell you if it's getting too heady, and you need to just sink back into your heart. But it's a twofold path. It isn't just all heart and feeling and experience. It's very precise. Vedanta is very precise. Just like I've been talking about conditioning. The false sense of self is an identification with conditioning. You need to look at your conditioning. You need to question your assumptions. That's intellectually precise. That's the right use of intellect. Atmananda calls it higher intellect, where the mind literally turns on itself to question its own assumptions and its own boundaries. That is the right use of intellect, and you're never not going to have that. That's going to go all the way to the end. If that's all there is, your heart isn't developed. And so that knowledge doesn't sink in and begin to be amplified in your life. So it requires, there's two paths. One is Vedanta, which is the strict, precise inquiry. The other is Tantra, which is not just limited to sexual exploration, or that's part of it. Its real roots are the experience of the divine as the human, the experience of the insights from your precise Vedantic inquiry in the tantric experience of the juiciness of life. And it touches everything, including relationships. So I hope that answers your question. So yes, you can both study it and not study it, and as always, there's a point at which all of it falls away and you just know and you just are. Right? How you get there is it's beautiful. It's your own unique journey. You will experience it. Buddha refers to it as the personal realization of Buddha knowledge. It's your unique Buddha story, which is just like nobody else's. And it will be just extraordinarily beautiful and unique to you. So, thank you all for being here today. Once again, it is time for me to exit. We'll be doing this again next week. I will have a recording of this that I will share on Facebook as well, because I can only broadcast on one or the other, not on both. Those are Facebook's rules, not mine. I tried to do it on both and realized that I could have gotten in trouble. So I don't want to break their terms of service. Thanks to you all. Again, you want to just chat goodbye to everybody, or there was quite a few people that were here today. So thank you all for being here. This is, as long as you keep showing up and asking questions, I'll keep showing up to answer them. Namaste, everybody.